Alright, so it has been a while since we've featured some budget gaming peripherals in this channel. So in this video, we're going to check out the new Rakk TANDOG Pro Keyboard and Mouse Bundle and the Rakk SUKOG Haribon Gaming Mousepad. The Rakk TANDOG Pro Keyboard is decent for its price, featuring legit mechanical switches and not swappable sockets. The mouse is okay for casual use, but the most interesting amongst the bunch is the Rakk SUKOG Haribon Gaming Mousepad with a textured but super smooth surface, similar but not quite to the popular Cardura fabric. By the way, I'm planning to give all of these away later, so make sure to watch the entire video. With that being said, let's get into it. The packaging features the same black and yellow colorway of Rakk Gears. Rakk Gears, by the way, for my international viewers, is a local brand here in the Philippines, offering affordable gaming peripherals for extremely budget ones like what we have here, up to the enthusiast level, but still at a very competitive price range. Here at the back, you can take a quick glimpse at the specifications of both the keyboard and mouse. And upon opening the box, we have the user manual, the mouse itself, and the mechanical keyboard. Both are wired only, by the way. Here's a quick look at the user manual so that you can have an idea about its features and functionalities. At first look and touch on the mechanical keyboard, it looks like a typical budget mechanical keyboard with pretty basic design features and a monochromatic colorway. Not a surprise really, considering its price. It is a full-size keyboard with a dedicated numpad, arrow keys, nav cluster keys, function rows, and a standard ANSI layout. The fonts are your typical OEM fonts with printed sub-legends on some keys for secondary functions. We also have 3 LED indicators here and a small printed Rakk logo right here. The plate, which also serves as the top cover, is made of steel, while the bottom housing is made out of ABS plastic. It weighs roughly around 1 kg thanks to the hefty steel plate and checks out with its rated weight. It features a floating keys design, which means half of the switches are visible. It also offers a slanted profile looking at its side for a more ergonomic form factor. As I pointed out earlier, it is a wired-only keyboard with a non-braided cable. Looking at the bottom, we only have 2 rubber feet. I understand that this is an extremely budget keyboard, but I hope that they added the usual rubber tape here so that it won't scratch your desk when the flip-out stand is closed. And lastly, here at the bottom, we have the typical branding and model sticker here at the center. Now, the keycaps are made out of double-shot ABS plastic, which is well appreciated compared to UV-coated ABS keycaps found on keyboards at this price range. While it uses ABS plastic, which may shine over time, at least the legends will never fade away, except for the printed sub-legends, of course. The keycap's thickness is around 0.7 to 1 mm. As for the switches, it uses 1 red switches with 45 grams of actuation force and a standard 2 to 4 travel distance. And even though this is a budget mechanical keyboard switch, it is pre-lubed out of the box, albeit mostly on the legs and not much on the side rails. The board itself is not swappable, and while it's not as universal as the Kale, Gateron, CIY, and the like, at least it's also compatible with OTEMU switches. The stabilizers are also surprisingly lubed out of the box, which is nice. It sounds okay for its price, with noticeable rattle sounds, but since it is plate mount, it is easy to modify and fix. Again, here's the user manual for the different features and functionalities. I won't go over all of these, but I'll show you the lighting effects, which you can toggle using the nav cluster keys. The perky RGB comes from the surface-mounted LEDs. Now, I wasn't really planning on tearing this keyboard apart, but since I wanted to provide you with all the details I can give, I had to do it. Tearing this keyboard apart is pretty easy. All you have to do is remove some keycaps to reveal the screws, unscrew them all, and then you can easily lift the PCB and plate combo. Just be careful of the wire connecting the PCB to the USB cable. As you can tell, you can add a foam here if you want to reduce reverb sounds. As for the PCB, it looks like a typical budget red PCB with soldered hot swappable sockets. Looking at the gap between the PCB and the plate, we don't have any sound dampening material here, which is not a surprise for a budget keyboard like this. I just had to point that out. At least you now have a better understanding of its constructions and the things you can do with it. In terms of performance, I'm pleased to report that it supports full NKRO, which means you can press as many keys as you want without conflicts. Overall, a good budget mechanical keyboard with some flexibility when it comes to customization, thanks to the hot swappable sockets, albeit limited to just Wano and Otemu switches. Now before we move on to the gaming mouse, here's a quick sound test for you guys. The gaming mouse, on the other hand, is a little bit underwhelming, in the sense that I won't be using this for competitive gaming anytime soon. But given that it is just part of the bundle at a super affordable price point, I'm not entirely disappointed. This is good enough as an entry point while you're saving up for a dedicated gaming mouse. It features a smooth matte textured finish, and in terms of the primary buttons, it is using Wano micro switches. The scroll wheel doesn't have any unwanted squeaking sounds and doesn't wobble side to side, but it has weak tactile notches and is annoyingly hard to press. The DPI button, on the other hand, offers a loud and tactile click sound. Here at the rear end, we have an illuminated Rakk logo. Looking at the left side, we have the forward and back buttons, one of which has some dotted texture. You can also see here the general shape when it comes to its bump and a bit of the RGB lining at the bottom. Looking at the back, as you can tell, this is a symmetrical mouse, but since there are no buttons on the right side, this is still considered to be for right-handed users. Again, like the keyboard, this is a wired-only mouse. Turning it all over at the bottom, we have 3 mouse gliders and the budget 725F sensor at the center. By the way, before using it, don't forget to remove the plastic cover on the mouse gliders. It's subtle, so you might miss it. As per testing, it weighs around 76 grams, which checks out with its specifications. As for the RGB lighting, we have it on the Rakk logo and on the bottom RGB lining. You can customize this using the software. Now, before I share with you my experience with it, here's a quick sound test. Alright, so in terms of performance, I'd say it is usable to say the least. I was still able to finish 3rd in Valorant Deathmatch, which means it's not entirely garbage. However, I honestly had to compensate a lot. The combination of the larger shape, heavier weight, stiff cable, and budget sensor with only up to 7200 dpi and 125Hz simply doesn't offer confidence for me to use it in competitive matches. But at least it wasn't erratic, doesn't spin out, at least nothing noticeable, and for the most part, again, usable. Again, in my opinion, this is more like a temporary peripheral while you save up for a better one. Now, it is worth noting that while both of these peripherals have software support, you have to install them separately, which isn't a surprise. Even their more expensive peripherals use individual OEM software. So yeah. Now, the TANDOG Pro keyboard has pretty basic software and looks noticeably cheap compared to their higher-end products. Nevertheless, it is still quite handy, allowing you to at least record macros, change a single keys function like other keys, multimedia functions, and even window shortcuts. All the keys are customizable, except of course for the FN key. Now under the panel tab, we have all the different lighting effects that I showed you earlier. Of course, you can also adjust things like brightness, direction, and speed. You can also restore it to factory settings under the settings tab. The Tandog Pro mouse on the other hand has more options like multiple profiles and customization of the 6 buttons. We also have macro recordings and LED settings, and we even have a music sync feature. However, it lacks some of the most notable features like adjustable polling rate and lift-off distance, which is more likely a limitation of the sensor itself rather than the software. The DPI is only up to 7200 and you can adjust it only in increments of 200. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I'm giving away all of these to one of you guys, and all you have to do to join is like and share this video, of course subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your favorite feature of any of these peripherals. Check the description below for more important details. Good luck! And lastly, we have the Rakk SUKOG Haribon, which I guess is their first entry into the legitimate gaming mouse surface market space, and not just your typical OEM fabric. It features 480 by 400mm dimensions with around 4mm in thickness and uses a hybrid Cardura fabric. Now, while it has some tangible woven texture, I'd say it is probably one of the sleepiest surfaces I've ever tried. I'm not entirely sure if it is coated or simply because of the material used, but it is also water resistant and is easy to clean. And while I'm not a fan of busy designs and prefer a more minimal approach when it comes to mousepads and desk mats, I still appreciate the artwork done here for the Haribon creature. The quality of the print is really good, and the surface itself perfectly matches its character. It's definitely a speed type mousepad for those who prefer this kind of surface. Now, the rubber base is made out of a combination of natural rubber and PU leather and is absolutely grippy. It's not going anywhere. It also features stitch edging, tying everything together. However, what I don't like about this is that out of the packaging, it doesn't lay entirely flat on the desk. All 4 corners are curved. It's not a total deal breaker, but a very annoying thing to see. As for the Cardura fabric comparison, while it shares some of its characteristics, they are noticeably different. The Rakk SUKOG Haribon is smoother than the Cardura fabric, at least compared to the Fantech MPC 900. Now, which is better will highly depend on each individual's preference. Personally, I can't use any of these two or any Cardura based surface. It is too smooth for my liking, especially the fact that I'm using a relatively high 800 dpi. Now for my testing, I used my daily driver, which is the Fantech Aria XD7, to properly experience it. And I'd say, while I always have a hard time using this kind of smooth surface, I was still able to finish first in Valorant Deathmatch, albeit mostly via spray and pray. So yeah, if you fancy a smoother surface than what the Cardura fabric can offer, there is a good alternative. Overall, to conclude, I can still recommend the Rakk TANDOG Pro given what it offers for its 1,495 price tag. The mechanical keyboard alone is good enough for its price, and you can use the gaming mouse in the meantime while saving up for a decent wireless gaming mouse. The Rakk SUKOG Haribon is interesting to say the least. It looks good for a mousepad that features artwork and offers a quite unique smooth surface for those who are looking for something different. And there you have it guys, thank you for watching. Huge thanks to Rakk Gears for sending this in and for allowing me to give it back to you guys. You can also get this using the links below. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you appreciate this video, and see you next time. Have a great day guys, you're awesome.